Talk to me about, first off, power prices. This is something I don't typically ask car CEOs, but you've got factories to one and now one to build. At a time when prices are very high, you have cheaper power, I think, north of you, but even in Gothenburg right now, it's expensive. How are you dealing with this? How are you arbitraging these power prices?
I believe you, of course, have to see it a bit longer term also. I think we have talked earlier about when the fuel prices go up and then suddenly they go down, and then should we then go back to combustion engines? I mean, we have always said we believe electrification will come, and of course right now there is a power shortage, very cold weather here up in Europe. I'm quite convinced that we should go electric independently of that. And I mean, if the car industry go into electric, I'm quite sure also investment will follow. We need to be able to charge all of those cars in a climate good way. So it doesn't really change our strategies.
Yeah, absolutely, but it may influence where you plan to build this new factory. What sites are you looking at? Who's leading the race here?
It is first step. Production start around 26. We're talking about 30 gigawatt hours. So say it's for around 300,000 cars, and then we will expand it into around 500,000 cars. 50 gigawatt hours. But very important is, of course, also to develop really now the state-of-the-art chemistry and integrate them and still control them in an absolute good way in the car. And that's really the beauty of this venture. We will work very closely, vehicle engineers and the battery engineers, to really develop a state-of-the-art solution for our next generation of electric cars.
Hakan, I think a lot of people want to know where this factory is going to be. Do you know yet? Is it still to be decided?
We have a very short list, and you have to look into, of course, energy, very important, should be CO2-free energy, cost of energy, logistics, competence, and so on. So we have a very short list, a handful of possible sites. A couple of them are in Sweden, but we also have good alternatives outside Sweden. So now we need to finalize exactly the support from local authorities, because it's not just building a factory, it's a lot of things that has to be taken into account. Also the financials, not quite decided, of course.
Yeah, not quite decided yet. How do you expect battery prices? In February, you will decide, really. Tell me that, but also how you expect battery prices to develop as raw material demand surges. So many car manufacturers and battery manufacturers now after the same raw materials to go into the batteries. How would you expect prices to move?
They will anyhow move down, because when you get scale, cost of batteries will go down, and it's needed because, say, mid-decade, we need to have affordable battery cars. I mean, say, cost should be in parity with the combustion fuel car of today. And when it comes to raw material, of course, it's also to minimize expensive material used in the batteries. I think we will look into exactly what material is needed, prices of cobalt and so high. And I mean, we can also minimize the use of that. That's also, of course, part of the R&D. To really get the cost down and the performance up of the batteries. And I think we could do that in this very close cooperation with Northvolt. And I think also culturally we have a very good fit, as we both come from the same region, same language, same background, culture.
Hakan, how do you compete with or work with Polestar? My wife wants to buy an electric car. Naturally, I started looking at the XC40. I noticed it's more expensive than a Polestar 2. How do you work with that brand, which is historically kind of the performance brand of Volvo, but is now being spun off into its own company?
Now it's a sort of partner. We share, of course, development costs, but they are also, of course, pioneering certain concepts. Of course, they are much faster all-electric than Volvo will be. Say they are 10 years ahead of us in the development, but also pioneering new ways of reaching customers with direct sales, with the downtown stores to meet customers. A lot of interesting developments. So in a way, they are part of our family, and I think it's very difficult to see Polestar without Volvo and Volvo without Polestar. So I would be very liberal in my recommendation to you choosing a Polestar or Volvo. I would be happy either way.